if you're listening and you're a real estate investor that isn't sure how to scale your marketing, meaning you know you want like kind of a lifestyle business and you don't want to grow to like 100 deals a month or 20 deals a month or 30 deals a month or whatever it is, and you want a system that's going to be able to kind of take it to where it needs to go based on your lifestyle goals, well, today's episode is going to be for you. Now, you might see that there's a little bit of a different recording sequence here. If you're watching the video portion of it, it's because I have my camera broken down and I have a very small time crunch and I want to make sure I get this recorded for you. But additionally, the interview that I have today with Jon and Amy Nolen, good friends of mine, is from the archives. This was a podcast interview that we had done months ago. You'll notice that it was actually done with Zoom and not Riverside, which I preach heavily now to use. And the reason is because that's what we were using at the time that we were utilizing the podcast. And this got resurrected because we never released this episode, and I found it in my file hard drive. And I'm like, you know what? I still need to put it out because it was a fantastic, fantastic interview. Jon and Amy Nolen are people that have their real estate investing business dialed the hell in, and they built their business specifically around their lifestyle. So there's a couple key things that we take away from this is that specifically. We've talked to other real estate investors that have actually scaled themselves to almost being broke before, where they were actually spending so much money, so much effort on their marketing, and it broke their sales team, or they had all these leads coming in, not qualifying them, and then they would lose deals because they weren't getting to the leads fast enough and that sort of thing. So Jon and Amy talk about how they were able to actually scale their marketing to the exact specifications of them doing a certain amount of deals a month that supports their lifestyle. Amy specifically talked about how they were doing 20, 30 deals a month, and it just wasn't what they wanted. They were getting burned out. They weren't spending time with family and that sort of thing. So it's very important to understand how your marketing does actually impact your overall business, and that's one of the things we talk about as well. Another thing is talking about automations and your CRM. So how your CRM automations and those type of things actually impact your marketing. If you don't have a good CRM that you're working with, then that can make you lose a crazy amount of money because maybe you don't have the proper automations to set up for follow-up. You're not getting to the leads fast enough and that sort of thing. And speed to lead is everything when it comes down to the business of marketing, especially marketing to motivated seller leads. So we talk heavily about that. They have a platform called Pete that they discuss, and we'll talk about that at the end of the episode as well and how you can get connected with them. So without further ado, guys, you're going to really enjoy this episode. Jon and Amy are a sweet, sweet couple. We actually work with them on all their content, so make sure you go follow them on all their content as well. But without further ado, my good friends, Jon and Amy Nolen. You guys enjoy. All right, what's going on, guys? Josh Culler here, back with the REI Marketing Weekly. And today I have my very good friends and clients out of Oklahoma City. I've got Jon and Amy Nolen. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Awesome.
Excited to be on here with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have both of you guys on. Obviously, like I said, you guys are clients of mine in the media business. We manage all your content and stuff like that. And you guys have it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys remember this conversation when we first got started with you, because Amy was a little bit like I don't know if I want to be on camera. Now she's like an absolute rock star. But obviously, like, as you guys have been doing video, the video has just gotten better and better and better. And I was watching a couple of the videos, some of the recent ones that we put out, and you guys were just like delivering such good substance within the content. So obviously, like, this is a shameless plug. If you guys aren't following Jon and Amy, make sure you do that. We'll leave all the links to their socials in the show notes for this podcast. But today we're going to be talking about what they're doing marketing-wise in their business. Now, again, I'm going to kind of leave the floor open to you guys to kind of dictate what you want to discuss, what you kind of want to give away and that sort of thing and information. But from the active side of the business, from what you guys are doing right now, what are some of the things that are working best with locking up deals, building brand, maybe, building rapport with the seller or whatever it is, systems, operations, an actual marketing tactic? What's working best for you guys right now?
On our property buying, it's building the brand more than anything. I mean, a few years ago, we had done cold calling, we had done texting, we'd done mail, and we just saw diminishing returns on those. And I didn't think it was going to work at first. Amy was excited about this, and I ended up having to eat crow, and I got up in front of a bunch of our friends and said, I'm eating crow. But we started doing TV. And that was 3 years ago, Amy?
Sounds right.
It was like 3 years ago. And then we added on radio, and we ended up stopping mail. I'm sure we'll end up doing mail again at some point, but right now it's just the brand with radio and TV.
And you're still doing it today?
Yeah.
Amy, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, John said I brought him to TV and everything. I will say I'm an introvert, and it was one of the scariest things I brought, but I just saw people feel like they know who you are when they watch you on TV, hear you on the radio, watch your videos on Facebook. I mean, we all feel more connected when we watch video of people. So it just made sense for the advertising too.
And I feel like in your guys' market, in particular, too, it's probably a lot more like you really need that human connection with people. And from a standpoint of like so I think the difference with TV TV ads or radio ads or whatever is it is interruption marketing. So it can sometimes be categorized as cold calling or in the same category as cold calling or, text messaging because that's still interruption marketing. But when you're like hopping into somebody's phone, their personal phone, it sets a tone off the bat, like in a defensive mechanism. But when you're on TV, when you're on radio, the feeling of it is just so much different, and it needs to be set in a different category. So, not sure if you guys ever went heavy into cold calling and text, but from what you had done before in your marketing 3 years ago, and even if you were phasing out of it, did you notice any kind of like a mental shift with the people that you would talk to, the sellers you would talk to as you were, kind of on the phone with them?
Yeah, we did. The rapport was the biggest thing right off the bat. We had rapport with them. They was kind of funny at times. They'd be excited to see us, because you're on TV. Well, we paid to be there, but
yeah,
I'm glad you think it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, with especially cold calling and texting. I mean, you get a lot of people are like, okay, fine, sure, I'll sell my house.
Mm-hmm.
Give me $1 million, or give me whatever the case is. With TV and radio, they're hearing it over and over and over again. And just when that moment's right, they have that in their mind, integrity home buyers, and they give us a call.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So like when you guys are doing these TV ads, and you started this 3 years ago, you said, is when you started doing that. Has there been any shift in like the way you guys execute TV ads? Is it the same like repeating TV ad that you have going on over and over again? Or is there multiple ones? Talk to me about how like in the last 3 years, if anything's changed with it, if you've had to develop it in any way.
Amy, why don't you up on that one?
So we've used one TV ad for 2.5 years, and I just had him switch it because I was thinking that's got to be so stale. I get tired of the same ad over and over. I actually kind of want to record another one. I think it would be good to kind of get an updated feel.
Yeah.
It's the second one they did was recorded at the same time. They just edited it different.
Okay. Gotcha. And did you see any kind of results in terms of like how the results were coming in between the two different ads that you guys ran? Or similar results?
It's about the same results.
About the same type of results. Now, when you guys are doing these ads, are you sending them to a phone number? Are you sending them to a website? Like, how are you getting that lead intake in? And then what's like the next step for them after that?
We on both of the ads, we have our phone number, and we say the phone number multiple times on the TV commercial. We also have our web address on the commercial, but we don't say it. But we do get a lot of people that go and will Google us after they hear it and find us and call us off a different number. But that's one of the reasons why we always ask everybody, hey, I see, you saw us on TV, obviously, but, did you hear about us somewhere else? Or, saw you were on our website. How'd you find out about us? That way we can attribute those leads accordingly.
Sure, of course. Do you find that normally people will do that is like they go straight from like, because there's obviously a couple ways that this could kind of shake out is like after they watch the ad, they can pick up the phone, call you directly. Or do you think more, or maybe it's a split, but do you think more people are like, because I know, let me back up. When I get hit with an ad, let's say it's a TV ad, like maybe I'm watching the NBA playoffs and I get with an ad and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Something I'm interested in. Like the one that comes to mind is like Wingstop. There's a Wingstop commercial that's going around right now for the NBA playoffs. And if I have any interest in Wingstop, I might go to their website to look up their menu and see what they have. I personally never had Wingstop before. So it's like, I'm going to kind of do my research on it first. That's my process. Do you guys find that that's similar? People are watching the ad, going to the website and then calling you, or are they skipping the website and just picking up the phone directly?
No, they go to the website. One thing we found right after we launched TV was our PPC went through the roof because people were Googling. We had to like shut that down because we were spending money for stuff.
Because you would spend money for the TV ad, then they would Google you and click on the PPC ad.
Yeah, it was racking up our bills, so we got that fixed quickly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never even would have thought about that. I had I think you guys are familiar with Brad Whittle. I had him on the I interviewed him a couple episodes ago, and he did a lot of PPC and SEO. And he had a similar, like, he wasn't doing TV, but he was doing a similar thing where he was running a different campaign, and people will come to Google, click on his PPC ad. So he literally get charged twice for the same lead that came in. But so then obviously, like, one of the things that you mentioned at first was building the brand. So obviously, if, you know, let's talk about the progression of this. So you're running a TV ad, they're seeing your brand there. Is it like, do you guys focus? I know a lot of people that run TV, they focus on like having their family on the ad, or just like very personable in terms of messaging and stuff like that. Not a lot of branding. And then you kind of push them to the website, and then the website branding, the presence there does a lot of the talking there. But like, what's kind of like the way the branding works when it comes to, you know, running TV, then pushing them to the website, then they pick up the phone and call you?
I think really with the brand, we don't do anything with the family. We don't have the kids in it. We've talked about having the kids in the commercial, and some people that works well for, some people it doesn't. I think it's kind of a 50-50 shot on that. But it's just a brand of, hey, we're just two local people that are buying houses and are just shoot.
You might see us out at a restaurant.
Yeah. We'll shoot you straight and see if we may be a good fit or not. We don't try to do anything crazy or gimmicky or like over the top exciting car dealership commercial type commercials. It's just Amy and I talking, and pretty simple.
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit of a pivot I want to go into, and that's all super valuable. The thing that, you know, you guys mentioned about you know, having to adjust the PPC, that was interesting. So obviously, and that's something I didn't even think about until you brought it up. But like, obviously, you guys were running PPC. Have you stopped doing that altogether? And if you have, like, what was the thought process and the adjustment with that?
We have stopped PPC. We don't have a need for it. I mean, we're doing the amount of deals we want every month. We're consistent, and if we wanted to increase our leads, we could pop out some PPC and get some more, but we just really don't have a need to. Our SEO kind of takes it over at that point if they Google us.
Sure, of course. Now, I know there's something interesting that, like, you guys kind of, just from me personally knowing you, know this about you, is you guys are a very, like, family and lifestyle oriented business owners, right? So you build the business around the lifestyle, and that's kind of the way you know, run what you do. So obviously, you mentioned, like, you know, so there's some people out there that are like, they're trying so hard to get more leads and develop more leads, but maybe they don't have the capacity or the want to even, like, when those leads come in, like, do they have the ability to pick up the phone? Obviously, like, if you're running PPC, you got to pick that phone up either live, or you got to call them back in 2 minutes, or you lose that lead. But like, so talk to me about, like, kind of the thought process. What, like, you got a certain amount of deals that you want to do. Is it important to make sure that you have the lifestyle, like, directing the marketing of the business? Because obviously, like, the more marketing you do, the more effective it is, the more clientele you'll bring in, the more, you know, deals you do, that sort of thing. So then that changes the lifestyle, that sort of thing. So how does that kind of, like, work in terms of the marketing of the business?
I will say, what was it? Last year or 2022 was the crazy year, wasn't it?
2020.
We had our marketing dialed, so we were doing 20 to 30 deals a month, and it was crazy. It was too much. We felt like we were grinding, we were working. If we were awake, we were working, and that wasn't what we wanted. We like to travel. We have kids that are almost all teenagers. Can you believe it? So we want to spend time with them and travel with them, and at least while we can, until they hate us too much. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, we got away from it for a while and then got into doing too much and realized we really didn't enjoy it anymore, and scaled back and just kind of looked at our cost per contract, our cost per closing, and cost per lead, and just kind of pulled those back to the ad spend that we wanted to be at.
And I do want to throw in there that just because you're doing more deals doesn't mean you're making more money.
No, it does not.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure. And so, like, one of the next question I'll going to kind of lead into was in terms of KPIs, like, how does that work for you guys? If you're, because most real, and obviously you guys aren't most real estate investors. This is the kind of the point that I want to make is most real estate investors, like, they're trying to scale up. They're trying to do more deals, which means more marketing, more numbers they got to track, that sort of thing. What type of numbers do you guys track if you're like, you want to put a limitation on maybe the amount of deals and obviously profit that is being generated from that? But what kind of numbers do you look at to kind of dictate that?
The typical numbers, our cost per lead, our cost per contract, and our cost per closing are the three main ones. Over the last 6 months or so, we've started looking at return on ad spend, something we hadn't looked at before. I mean, it makes sense to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're spending X amount of dollars on marketing, what matters the most is how much you're getting back. And we've started tracking that over the last 6 months or so. But before that, just our cost per lead and going through contract and closing.
Yeah, and I will say that we kind of run off of what the team can handle. We have a pretty solid team. So we flip a lot and we keep rentals. And then we wholesale anything in excess of what we can do at that time. So we've got 5 to 10 projects running at a time. If we get to where something's going to sit forever, we'll sell it to another investor. But that's kind of how we judge on how much we can handle. It's what the team can handle.
Yeah, for sure. No, I want to hop one more question right back to the TV and radio. Some people maybe listening right now, they're not entirely sure what to expect when it comes to that. What are some of the hidden things that, like, obviously, like, there's more than enough education out there about, like, here's the things you need to do, best practices, text blasting 101 or cold calling 101, stuff like that. Or even obviously direct mail's been around for forever. So with TV ads, I feel like there's not a lot of like necessarily education and information out there about it. In the 3 years you guys have done it, what's something that people need to look out for that maybe you guys, learned about that can really be passed on to somebody if they're going to execute TV correctly?
2 things come to my mind. One is be prepared for leads to come in that are more rural and be prepared on how to handle those. We've done both. We've said flat out, nope, we're not interested. Then at one point we kind of opened it up and we made some money on some and didn't on others. So really define where you're willing to buy at or wholesale at or whatever the case is. And the other one is have thick skin because you will get the occasional troll.
There's a lot of people that don't like the way I wear my hair sometimes. So
really?
Oh, well.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. That's interesting. And I'm sure like people get that probably like in different marketing stages that you're in, right? Obviously there's sometimes like if you're running specifically SEO or PPC, you can hide behind, not having to communicate with people at that kind of a level, but that's interesting. Do you get a lot of like people calling you that kind of give you some crap about like random things?
Not a lot, but we get them occasionally.
And we get Google reviews as well about our hairstyles.
Yeah, we had somebody leave us a 1-star Google review because they didn't like Amy's hair and they didn't like that I wear a hat.
Oh man.
Thanks.
You know how it is with social media, though. It's the same. People hide behind their computers and do what they're going to do.
Yeah, for sure. Now, in terms of like budget and stuff like that, is that something you guys are willing to share? Like what makes sense from a, like, if I'm going to seriously do TV or radio, what makes sense for me to spend? And I'm sure it depends on the market that you're in. But what's like kind of a fair estimate or what to expect in terms of that?
Yeah, it varies a whole lot on the market because Oklahoma City's it's not a small market, but it's nothing like Minneapolis or Dallas or Houston or LA. Amy, what are we spending? It varies a little bit based on how many spots we get, but 12.5 to 13.
That's for both together, TV and radio.
For both together.
On a monthly basis?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting. And about how much, say, revenue or profit does that generate from that spend? Is it like, you don't even have to give a number, is it like 4x, 5x?
I think our slower months were closer to 5x, and I think we've been as high as 7 or 8x.
Okay.
We've had some that are 10x returns, but
Yeah.
consistently we're 5 to 7 probably.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So it's definitely worthwhile doing it. And then you guys have it, and obviously, like, again, being a lifestyle business owners, you probably have the numbers like way dialed into, like, if we run this amount of ads this month, this is the amount of leads that we're going to get. And has that changed at all in terms of the last 3 years, or is it pretty steady in terms of like the amount of leads you get depending on the ad spend that you put out there?
It's pretty steady. Later this year with the election, when the political commercials come out, our ad spend will stay the same, but we won't have as many spots.
Okay.
So I'm expecting a dip then. But
And around the holidays, I think we get the normal dip that everybody gets.
Sure. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's going to be across the board, though. Towards the end of the year, this podcast will be out just before the summer. So if you're listening right now and it's you're getting around, I would say August, it's going to be tough, like in terms of your ad spend generating what you want it to do. TV, anything basically. Political parties will put advertising out on Facebook ads, PPC, like Instagram ads. Yeah, all of it. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's very interesting. So what are a couple other things that maybe you guys are doing on maybe the sales side that is implemented off the back of the way that you generate leads, that maybe it's even just super simplifying the process or whatever it is, but are you guys the ones that are picking up the phones? Do you have lead managers? Like, what's, like, if I were to pick up the phone and call you off the number that you gave me, what's the next step that you guys have implemented?
We have a lead manager that answers the phone and takes the web leads and calls them back immediately. And the next step with her is just getting rapport. I mean, she's not asking about the condition of the house. We don't want to know at that point. If they give it to us, great, but really getting rapport and finding out what the actual pain is. Too often people get straight into, okay, well, what's the size of the house? When was the roof replaced? You can get that info later. And then if they're interested in selling at a discount, then she schedules an appointment for our acquisition manager to go out and meet them belly to belly.
Yeah, gotcha. That's cool. So a little bit of a pivot that I want to kind of go into is and give you guys the opportunity to talk about Pete. Obviously that's something that you want to get kind of out there. CRM phone system, but does a bunch of other things. How do you guys kind of utilize that for the marketing and sales process that you kind of work within, and what is some ways that other people listening might be able to utilize it for as well?
Amy, you want to take it?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Specifically using Pete on the marketing side, the follow-up is a big key, and having the follow-ups be automated. It's not just simply going and selecting a sequence and have to remember to select the sequence and shut the sequence off or whatnot. The sequences, we can set them manually, but they have been set up in Pete to go off the status. So if the status changes from appointment to offer declined, it automatically hits those up. So we don't have to have as much little tedious work for our acquisition manager and our lead manager. And then if we're dispoing it, if we're wholesaling it, we have the pictures right in Pete. We don't have to go somewhere else. We don't have to go to Google Drive or Dropbox and share a link. We can just select which pictures we want to share, and then we can share them directly out of Pete with people.
Yeah.
And I did want to say, for those of you listening that don't know what Pete is, it's based on a CRM that has file management, task management, phone system, project management all built in. So basically we use it from lead till we sell a property, or if we keep it as a rental, we can track it that way too. It doesn't have property management yet, but that's coming soon.
Yeah, gotcha. So something that's really I've always thought was a very underrated, and obviously, like, this podcast is all about marketing for real estate investors. So I've always want to circle back the conversation to that. But the thing that I find interesting that people don't put enough emphasis on is the systems that they're using for not just lead follow-up, but everything that happens after that.
Mm-hmm.
A big part of marketing is the customer experience. Customer service before the sale happens, or I'm sorry, after the sale happens, customer experiences during it, right? So like if your customer service is really taken care of, like to me, the way it kind of explain it is it's a lot more reactive. So if a seller calls you and says like, hey, there's this hang up, and you might have the same person doing both, but the experience is the process that you take that seller through during the time period of they're selling your house. And the smoothness of that, it could dictate if they're going to send you a referral. It could dictate if they're going to leave you a 1-star review on your business page, even though they sold you the house. Maybe they weren't happy about it. You always want a happy customer, and more times than not, one of the best ways to ensure that happens is a clean process, and you really need a system dialed in to make that happen. Do you guys find that to be true? Do you have any opinions on that? Obviously, actively doing that.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with you. That was one of the issues that we had before with having different systems. A lot of people use Asana or ClickUp or Rike to handle things after they get in under contract, and things fall through the cracks. Notes get missed, they don't translate over, and that's something that we do spend a lot of time on, making sure that we're reaching out to the sellers every week. Hey, even if there's no update from title, but we're still here, and we automate that in Pete, so it's easy. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it. That's paramount. And also little things like if at one point we had a dedicated in-house transaction coordinator when we were doing a lot of deals, and the handoff between acquisitions and her was always a bit of a struggle on the phones because they had to call a different number. So we took that, and now with Pete, if we move it into a purchase phase, if they call that same number, we can have it route to the transaction coordinator now instead of the acquisition manager.
Yeah.
So your customer still just has one phone number that they have to call. It's really nice.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. It just makes me think of like, if you have to, for whatever reason, call your bank, you want to, do a refi, or you want to, a new line of credit or a loan, or you just want to check the balance on something. Like there's 25 different numbers, and you got to figure that there's no, or you hop on a call and then there's like 60 different prompts, like your extension this for that. And obviously, like being a smaller organization, not that your guys is small by like any stretch of the imagination, but having the ability to keep that intact throughout the entire process with just one phone number, I see how much value that could bring. And you find like, did you ever have sellers kind of compliment that in any way or kind of point that out, or is it just like it doesn't get pointed out, so it's cool?
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of it being pointed out. I think they just a lot of times take it for granted how it could be, but it's just making it smooth, making it as easy as possible for the sellers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, if there's, I think we unwrapped a lot of things. Obviously, we could go for a good amount of more time. But I wanted to give you guys the opportunity one more time. If there was anything else that you guys are doing in marketing that you guys have been in, the investing space for quite a while now, and you've seen a lot of, good things happen, a lot of bad things happen. Surely on the marketing side, is there any like last bits of information or, just a piece of advice that you would give somebody? Maybe they're not just starting off, maybe they're still experienced, but it's something that maybe they'll run into in the future that you could stop them from running into just by, your advice. Is there anything that you want to leave us with?
Amy, do you have anything? Or do you want me to go? Okay. Don't want to step on her when she's trying to talk. The biggest thing I would say is document your journey. You hear it all the time, but if social media is a huge platform, and we have gotten sellers reach out to us on social, not because we were doing reels or anything like that, just because they had seen us say that, hey, we buy houses, we bought this house, we did this. You can raise private money, you can do all kinds of things just from documenting what you're already doing. So you don't have to be. Sometimes people think, oh, well, if I'm gonna do a lot on social, then that means I'm trying to be a guru or something. No, it doesn't necessarily mean that. Just document your journey and let people see what you're doing. You may also inspire somebody to do great things, which is even just better. So
right, absolutely. Amy?
Yeah, so my piece of advice would be, as far as marketing, make decisions off of numbers, not emotions. I think a lot of times we sit back and are like, oh, that's not doing good. But when you run the numbers, it's doing way better than you think. So that's my biggest piece of advice. And also be consistent. Give whatever you try, give it a chance. 3-6 months minimum before you make a decision.
That's gold right there. I think, some of the biggest issues that I run into with people is like, it could be the other way around too. It might be like you have a really good feeling like this is doing well, and then you run the numbers and it's not doing hot, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? Obviously, the numbers are there not to bring bad news. They're there for you to make the adjustments, right? Whether it's something that you need to cut or continue doing or make adjustments on. The other side of that is obviously I always, and you guys have worked with me for quite a while on the content side, but consistency is like absolutely huge. Everybody wants the secret formula and the tips and tricks to, go viral and to just get out there bigger. And the ultra piece of like advice I could ever give anybody is just consistently do the practice for a long period of time, make the adjustments along the way. Just like you got your pilot, John, and sometimes a flight could be long and you're just going to have to make adjustments throughout the time period as you're making that trip. It's, if you don't arrive to your destination in 2 minutes, you're not turning the plane around and going and landing it back home, right? It's like you're going to make some adjustments, and that the journey is going to be a long time. So you just got to stay consistent with, how you're conducting that journey. So,
Exactly.
good stuff. Well, thank you guys so much for hopping on. Brought a lot of value. Obviously, love both of you guys there. I said at the beginning, but if you guys are not following them on social, make sure you do. They give an insane amount of tips about everything real estate and life and business related. Once again, they are very lifestyle driven business owners. So if that's something that's up your alley, you're going to get a lot of value and kind of substance from following them and consuming what they put out. So anyway, thank you guys so much for hopping on and spending some time with me and giving out some information. And I think that's going to do it. So thank you guys for hopping on. And thank you all for listening. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, leave a review if you haven't already. And you can check out all the show notes for everything that we talked about here, resources wise, and to be able to find Jon and Amy on social as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.